It was a freezing Christmas night, the kind where the wind cuts through every layer of clothing and even the brightest lights seem dim. On a quiet street, a widow sat huddled with her two children, shivering and alone, their hearts heavy with fear and uncertainty. Little did they know, a man who had faced the horrors of war was watching from afar. An ex-Navy SEAL, trained to act in the most dangerous situations, had seen their struggle, and in that moment, he made a choice that would change their lives forever. With a calm but firm voice, he simply said, "Come with me." It was a bitterly cold Christmas night, the kind that makes even the brightest lights seem dim. A widow sat on the steps of her apartment, her two children shivering beside her. Fear and exhaustion weighed on their small shoulders. Across the street, an ex-Navy SEAL noticed them. He had faced horrors most couldn't imagine, but this sight tugged at his heart. In that moment, he knew he couldn't just walk away. The children clung to their mother, whispering questions she couldn't fully answer. The ex-SEAL watched quietly, his trained eyes noticing every shiver and tear. He had seen despair before, but something about this family struck him differently. His instincts told him this was more than a random encounter. It was a chance to act, to protect, and maybe to heal a little of his own broken heart. He stepped closer, kneeling to meet their gaze. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" he asked softly. The widow's eyes widened, unsure if she could trust this stranger. But the warmth in his voice and the calm strength in his presence gave her a flicker of hope. The children clung to her, hesitant yet curious. Sometimes, hope begins with a single question, and he had just asked it. "Come with me," he said simply. 3 words that carried more weight than anything they had heard in months. The children's eyes widened, and their mother's heart trembled. Could they trust a stranger? Could this really be their escape from the cold and fear? In that moment, the decision was simple. They chose to believe, and with that belief, a miracle began. They climbed into his vehicle, the warmth inside wrapping them like a blanket. The children pressed close to their mother, still wide-eyed but slowly relaxing. Outside, the night remained cold, but inside, hope was growing. The ex-EL spoke softly, learning their names, their story, and slowly, their fear began to melt into trust. During the ride, the widow whispered her story, how she lost her husband unexpectedly, how the bills piled up, and how Christmas had become another night of fear. He listened, offering only his presence and understanding. His past battles had taught him pain, loss, and courage. And in that quiet sharing, a bond began to form, a bond that needed no words, only empathy. Finally, they arrived at a small, warm place, safe and welcoming. The children's eyes lit up as the widow allowed herself a deep breath. For the first time in months, they felt secure. No fanfare, no medals, just quiet kindness and a man who chose to step in when no one else would. That night, a true Christmas miracle unfolded. The widow's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. I don't know how to repay you," she whispered. He smiled softly. No repayment needed. Just take care of each other. The children hugged their mother tightly, laughter filling the room for the first time in weeks. In that moment, strangers became family, and hope became real. As he walked away into the cold night, he reflected on what had happened. Courage wasn't just for the battlefield. It was in small acts of kindness, in stepping up when no one else would, and in believing that even one person can change another's life. Life's quiet victories are often the most powerful, and this was one of them. That night, a widow and her children went from fear to hope, from loneliness to warmth. The ex-Navy SEAL, once a man of war, became a guardian angel in disguise. Their lives had changed forever, and their story is a reminder. Even the smallest acts of kindness can create miracles. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Miracles of Kindness to see more stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us of the power of humanity.